Hi, I'm Neil Beck. I was a doctor in Perth, Western Australia for 53 years. I had 500,000 consultations, home and hospital visits, and found that the most important part of health is mental health. In a developed country like Australia, if you've got mental health, sooner or later you're going to get everything else that you need. But if you have poor mental health, there will be very important things that you can never get, depending on the severity of your mental health problems. But things that you may not be able to get are a good education, a good marriage, good friends, a good home, good job. So mental health is very important. The problem is that there have never been any perfect mums, dads, families, homes, streets, communities, or schools. So every kid has some suffering in childhood and comes to adulthood with some mental health problems due to that suffering. And the most important thing for all of us is to, as soon as possible, find what our mental health problems are and get them fixed. But there's a problem. The thing that I observed was that although mental health was the most important part of health, it was the least well catered for. And many people who needed mental health help got no mental health help, and as far as I could see, nobody got enough mental health help. And why was that? Well, I eventually concluded that it was because the mental health tools were weak. Everything we do with tools. Tools help us to do things more quickly, more easily, better, more cheaply. And so we have good tools for almost everything except mental health. In mental health there are only two tools, or two main tools, and they've both got two major problems. One tool is medicines, and medicines has got two major problems. The first major problem is that as many medicines as possible are addictive. The pharmaceutical industry doesn't want you to stop taking medicine. The people who would benefit from medicine want to take medicine, get better quickly, stop taking medicine. But the people who make medicine want them to go on and on, taking as much medicine as possible for as long as possible. And they achieve that in three different ways. First, they make as many medicines as possible addictive. Nearly all the worry, anxiety medicines, the tranquilizers, are addictive. Originally the barbiturates, all addictive, and then the benzodiazepines, all addictive. Valium, Seropax, Mogadon, Xanax, and also Ambien, Stilnox, very addictive. A few years ago I researched the 100 most prescribed medicines in America. Every year in America they put out a list of the 100 most prescribed medicines, and at that time, for 3 years in a row, Ambien had been the most prescribed medicine for 3 years in a row, and that wasn't because it's very good, it's because it's very addictive. I still remember treating a patient who was referred to me because he was taking 17 Ambien tablets, or Stilnox as they're called in Australia, a day, 17 a day. and I remember another family, mum, grandma and head injured son, and between them they were taking about 30 Stilnox tablets a day. So and the three main medicines for ADD, ADHD are addictive. That's Ritalin, dexamphetamine and Adderall, all addictive, which causes terrible problems for people with ADD. And the sleeping medicines, like the anxiety medicines, mostly addictive. So the one main tool, mental health tool, is medicine, and it has this problem. So many medicines are addictive. And the second problem it has is that the medicines work too slowly. Most medicines are tablets or capsules. You take a tablet or capsule, you need to have a drink to wash it down, and it takes half an hour to an hour to go right down your gut and start to be absorbed and start to help, and between 1 and 2 hours before it's working strongly. And that's just too slow for many mental health problems and for addiction cravings. So addictive and too slow. And there's also lots of red tape around medicines, red tape and patents and misleading advertising. The second tool for mental health is talk therapy, counselling, psychotherapy, CBT, call it what you like, but basically talking. And talking has got two problems. Firstly, it's too slow. It takes an hour with a new patient with mental health problems, and especially if they've got an addiction. But mental health problems never occur one at a time. If they've got one mental health problem, they've got 2, 3 or 4 mental health problems. Our brain is not very big. If we've got something wrong with our foot, we usually don't at the same time have something wrong with our head. If we've got something wrong in our tummy, we don't usually have something wrong with our hand. But if this part of your brain not working very well, then that part of the brain is very close by, and that's usually not working very well, and that part not working very well. So mental health problems come usually 2, 3 or 4 together. There are 11 common main mental health disorders. Well, the Bible of the mental health industry, which is the DSM-5, says there are 500. But if you know about 11, you've got most of it. So, the problems with talk therapy is it's too slow, and because it's too slow, it often misses important things. In the talking, you deal with the big things, the 1 or 2 big things, but you so often the 2 or 3 or 4 smaller things, but still important, get overlooked and never get treated, and you don't get better until everything's better. So talk therapy is too slow, and talk therapy is too costly. Because to be a therapist, you need to have at least a 4-year Bachelor of Psychology degree from a university, or a 5-year Masters, or a 6 or 7 year PhD, and to be a psychiatrist takes 10 or 12 years. So those people who are qualified mental health carers are very intelligent people who've had a long and costly training, and they have to be paid well. So the slowness of talk therapy is compounded by the fact that it's very costly, and most people who most need mental health care can't afford to pay for it, and not even the government can afford to pay for all the mental health therapy that's needed. So with the present tools, there's never going to be enough mental health care for all the people that need it, and sadly it's the poorer people. Usually mental health problems result in people being less well paid, having less well paid jobs, and they just can't afford to pay for a private care, so they have to go on the waiting list, and the mental health care waiting lists, free government clinics, are very long, and on the waiting lists they get worse, and they get more complications and harder to help, and some end up in hospital, some end up in prison, some end up in a cemetery. So I was a family doctor for many years in the suburbs, and in the early days we were short of specialists because we didn't have a medical school in Perth till the late 1950s, and so family doctors did all sorts of things that are now done by specialists, and I helped to bring 800 babies into the world and did a lot of tonsillectomies and appendicectomies and vasectomies and a lot of broken bones and all sorts of things. But about 22 years ago, in the late 1990s, we had a terrible epidemic of heroin addiction in Perth. Because Perth is one of the most isolated cities in the world, we didn't get some of the addictive street drugs till late, but we got terrible heroin addiction epidemic in Perth in the late 1990s, and young people were telling me that they were the last one left standing in their group of friends. Everybody else had OD'd on heroin. So I thought I'd better find out about heroin, and I started to work 10 hours a week in a heroin clinic. And of course I wanted to know what caused addiction. What causes heroin addiction? Why do people take heroin? And I went to all the addiction clinics in Perth and Sydney and couldn't find a single addiction worker who could tell me what caused addiction. Oh, they're just dickheads chasing highs, is what some said, and some just shrugged their shoulders and said they didn't know why people took drugs. But they looked sick to me, and then one day in the clinic where I was working 10 hours a week, I saw 15 heroin addicts, and of those 15 heroin addicts I saw that day, 5 of them had ADD, ADHD. And then when I looked very carefully, I found that 95%, almost all of them, had had serious mental health suffering, and they had not got good mental health care, and had ended up in desperation getting street care, and the street care for suffering people is always addictive because the dealers just want to get all your money. So about 22 years ago I started to develop tools. I could see that the only way that a lot of people were going to get the mental health they needed was to help themselves. And to help themselves they needed tools, and they needed effective tools that ordinary people could make use of. So I've now almost developed 10 tools. The earliest tools were videos. There's no faster, better, cheaper, more convenient way to understand a mental health problem than to watch a video on it. And at first I made 10-minute videos, but then in the end I had to make under a minute videos because people wanted to watch TikTok type videos. So now I've got 83 under a minute videos, and that covers all the subjects in mental health and addiction, the wants, the needs and the solutions. The second tool obviously was websites, because people had to put the videos on a website. So my main website now is smilefixit.com. Smilefixit.com has got everything on it. Before that I had a longer website which is still there, which is mentalhealthvideos.com. mentalhealthvideos.com. So go to one of those websites, smilefixit.com or mentalhealthvideos.com, to see the videos. And the third tool was an app. We started with checklists, but checklists were much better than nothing, but too cumbersome and slow, and eventually I had to make an app, which of course is a lot of work and costs a lot of money. But my app is the Mental Fixit app. The Mental Fixit app at smilefixit.com. The fourth tool is live streaming, because I found that people love watching live streaming and they love scrolling. TikTok is only 9 years old, and yet they have over 1 billion visitors every month to TikTok, mostly because people love scrolling. So live streaming became very necessary. So now I do live streaming 4 times a week, on Wednesday, Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. Perth time, and because 7 p.m. Perth time is 7 a.m. New York time and 4 a.m. Los Angeles time and God knows what London time and Sweden time, Norway time. On Sundays I do a 9 a.m. Perth time session of live streaming, which is at a more user-friendly time in the northern hemisphere, because sometimes a third or 2/3 of our viewers, no, a third or a half of our viewers are in the northern hemisphere. The fifth tool was powder medicine. Why powder medicine? Well, because if you drop powder medicine on your tongue and suck it, don't swallow it, it starts to work in 5 minutes. And with mental health and addiction problems, you need the medicine to work very quickly. If you start to get very anxious, to have panic attacks, you want medicine that starts to work in 5 minutes, not that starts to work in 30 or 60 minutes and isn't strong until 1 or 2 hours. But if you drop thousands of grains of powder medicine on your tongue and suck it, it's absorbed by the tongue. The tongue is pink or red because the blood vessels are so close to the surface, and the tiny grains of powder medicine get into those blood vessels quickly and start to work in 5 minutes, and that's fast enough to block anxiety attacks. It's fast enough to help to delay and reduce addictive substances. If you can drop the right powder medicine on your tongue and suck it, you can put off smoking for 15 or 20 minutes, and that weakens the habit. You can delay drinking alcohol for 15 or 20 minutes, and that weakens the addiction. And when the addiction's a bit weaker, then you can delay it even more and make it more weaker. So speed is very important. So medicines need to be powder. The sixth tool was pocket powder. Pocket powder medicine dispensers, because having powder medicine in a jar with a little scoop was cumbersome. It wasn't convenient enough, and sometimes not very exact. So I had designed and had these pocket powder medicine dispensers made. So now you have the right powder in your pocket, and you're going along, you're driving the car, you whiz it out, or you're in a queue, or you're on the bus, or you're doing your work, and you start to feel the need, either a mental suffering need or an addiction craving need, and you just whiz it out and drop the powder on your tongue. The seventh tool is a heartbeat meditation aid. Meditation is so valuable for people with mental health and addiction problems. It's such a wonderful help, but the people who need what meditation does most often can't learn to meditate. It's difficult. In meditation, you stop thinking about your problems and you focus on your breathing, or you focus on a word, or you focus on something else. But if your troubles are very bad, very pressing, it's pretty hard to stay focused on your breathing. But it's much easier to focus on your heartbeats. So this heartbeat meditation aid, I just got cheap stethoscope and cut them short so you can pop them in your ears. That's the hearing part, and then you listen to your heart. And the loud, strong heartbeat is a much more attention-grabbing thing that helps you to stop thinking about all your troubles. Yeah, the eighth tool is another powder dispenser, but this is a fruit powder dispenser. So the powder medicine dispenser didn't give a big enough amount. With fruit powder, to get a good taste, you need about 1 ml. So this contains 45 mils, 45 doses. You carry it in your pocket. And why would you want to do that? Well, first of all, it can be used for pleasure. From the day we're born to the day we die, we put stuff in our mouth, and we love taste. Taste is one of the great human phenomena. Unfortunately, sugar is used so widely because of this taste factor that we've got massive epidemics of obesity and diabetes. Massive epidemics of obesity and diabetes because so many things have got sugar in them. Chocolate, lollies, confectionery, sugary drinks, biscuits, cakes, ice cream, everything got sugar in it. Sugar is so cheap and people love its taste, and sugar is as addictive as cocaine. Sugar is as addictive as cocaine. If you don't believe me, do a ChatGPT search. I didn't believe it at first, but so the food and drink manufacturers put as much sugar as possible in everything because it's so cheap for them, and people love the taste, and it's addictive. But sadly, as sugar has become mass-produced and cheaper, we do less and less physical work, so we need less and less calories. So with all that sugary stuff, we get obese and we get diabetes. So these dispensers are not available yet. I've got about 100 of them to try out, and they'll be made in Ningbo in China. 5,000 of them I've got on order. and fruit powder is increasingly popular worldwide. You can just go online anywhere and find lots and lots of different fruit powders to try and get whichever one you love the most. And fruit powder's got a little bit of fruit sugar, but that's harmless. Fruit powder, true fruit powder's got fibre in it, and fibre is very good for our gut and our gut biome. Although the fruit powder that I get, I buy from Coles supermarkets, and I get the vanilla and the chocolate. They're my favourites. But you can get a dozen different flavours online because they're being more and more popular worldwide for use in thick shakes and for making sweets. And so you can use, you'll be able to use pocket powder dispensers with fruit powder in it as your pleasure, as an alternative to sugar containing confectionery, biscuits, chocolates, lollies, cakes and drinks. But and you can also use it as an alternative to smoking and as an alternative to drinking too much alcohol. But you can also use taste to make and break habits. One of the big blind areas in mental health is that nobody seems to talk about habits, but 2/3 of our life is habits. 60 to 65% of our life is habits. Our brain is so busy it can't do everything consciously and purposefully. It has to turn things that we do a lot of into unconscious automatic habits. So 60 to 65% of our life, including sleep, but including so many other things, is automatic unconscious habits that just happen and are hard to stop. And how good our life is or how bad our life is depends partly on how many good habits we've got and how many bad habits we've got. And our habits need to change, because as we go through different age groups and the world changes and our lives change, sometimes we need to make new habits and sometimes we need to break old habits. And that can be difficult, because the new habit we want to make might not be that nice, so it's a bit of a battle doing it. But you can make it nice if every time you think of doing the new habit, you have a lovely taste. Every time you think about it and every time you do it, you have a lovely taste. And it soon starts to get easier to do that habit. So exercise is so important, particularly as more and more of us earn our living sitting at the desk. Exercise is more and more important. If you want to develop an exercise habit, you can encourage that by having a lovely taste every time you think about it and every time you do it. Or if you want to learn a musical instrument, or you're trying to learn a foreign language, or you're trying to focus on artwork or an essay or a book you're writing or some work, you can and you need to turn it into a habit. And the way you make a habit is to do something over and over and over again until the triggers and the electrical messages in the brain and nerves and the chemical messages in our tissues and glands and blood are strong flows, strong triggers, strong flows, which cause automatic unconscious habits. And if you want to break a habit, what you're contending with is strong triggers and strong electrical and chemical flows. So how do you break habits? Well, you can go cold turkey. That's what the old timers like me would mostly tell you, oh, just say no, just go cold turkey. But that doesn't work in most cases, and so many people, if they do succeed, they if they do succeed in breaking a habit, relapse. Something happens after a week or 3 months or a year, and bang, they're back on their bad habit. But what you do to more reliably break a habit is you delay doing it and you do less of it. And when you delay doing a habit and do less of it, that weakens the triggers and it weakens the electrical and chemical flows that underlie the habit. And when they get weaker, then you can delay them longer. And when you delay them longer, they get even weaker. And they eventually, they're so weak that you can just stop. That just quitting is possible. As an example, take smoking. When I was a boy a long time ago, nearly all men smoked in Australia. But now I think it's down to about 13%. And tobacco smoking kills 7 million people a year in the world. And for every one it kills, it ruins the life of dozens or hundreds. So smoking is a very dangerous thing, and it's a costly thing. So how would you use good taste to stop smoking? Well, if you can't go cold turkey, most people can't go cold turkey, what you do is you get your favourite powder, or these things are so cheap that you have 3 or 4 of them, and you have 3 or 4 different powders, and on Monday you have chocolate, and on Tuesday you have vanilla, and on Wednesday you have strawberry, and on Friday you have cherry powder or whatever powder you like. And every time you think of having a smoke, you whiz this out and you drop a lovely taste of your favourite fruit powder on your tongue, and you enjoy the taste. Oh, you love the taste. And you try not to think about the cigarette, you try to just enjoy the taste. And as the taste starts to fade, you have another taste, and you enjoy that. And then as that you have another taste, because the taste only costs a few cents. A cake of chocolate costs you $5, but 45 tastes of vanilla powder or chocolate powder or whatever powder you like doesn't cost you very much, so you can have lots of tastes. And when you do that, it's fairly easy to reduce your smoking by a quarter. If you're smoking 20 cigarettes a day, it's fairly easy to go to 15 cigarettes a day in somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks. And when you've been down 15 cigarettes for a while, that's fine. Your chemistry starts to come back normal, and 15 cigarettes a day works like it used to do when you first started to smoke, when 10 was enough when you first started to smoke. But anyway, you're down to 15, and you stay on 15 for a while, and then you gradually, with the taste, you get down to 10 cigarettes a day. And then you don't smoke the whole cigarette, you smoke half the cigarette or 3/4 of the cigarette and throw the last quarter away. So you reduce the frequency of smoking, you delay it, and you reduce the amount, you weaken it. And that weakens the habit, and in somewhere between 6 and 8 and 10 or 12 weeks you can stop smoking pretty comfortably. And then you carry the dispenser around in your pocket, and when your good mate says, oh, I have a fag, it won't do you any harm, you say, yeah, only take 1 cigarette and you're done, you're back on it. You say, no, I like my cherry powder, I like my vanilla powder, I'll have that instead, and you don't relapse. And then he goes off and he buys powder, and then he gives up, and then you're not fighting your family and your friends all smoking. You all give it up together, which is much better. So what was tool number 9? Tool number 9 got abandoned. I haven't done it yet, but I'll tell you about it. It's called phone treasure, because just like you can have fruit powder in your pocket, you can have phone treasure in your pocket. You've got your phone in your pocket, and you can have lovely photos on there, photos of your grandchildren, photos of your children, photos of your pet, photos of your flowers, your garden, your new car, your girlfriend, your mum, your dad, your grandpa, things that you love on your phone, music. I've just been reading the life story of Steve Jobs for the 7th time. And there was a time when iPods produced half the income of the massive Apple company was music things around your neck. But now they hardly sell any. Everybody plays the music on their phones. So you can have lovely sound on your phone, lovely music, or a favourite spruiker, someone speaking, or the foreign language you find. You can have what I call phone treasure, and anywhere, anytime, you just whiz it out and look at the phone treasure or listen to the phone treasure. And that is another way of making and breaking habits through pleasure. But the tenth tool is really wonderful, really wonderful. And I got so excited about that I didn't finish the phone treasure, and I've been working flat out for 3 months on Scroll Plus. Scroll Plus. I'm glad that I learned, but I'm a bit of a slow learner. It took me a long time to learn that people wanted 1-minute videos, not 10-minute videos. It took me a while to learn that a 1.5 page website was more popular than a 14-page website. It took me a while to learn that apps, a 2-minute or a 4-minute app is in many ways better than a 1-hour consultation, and a fraction the cost, and far more convenient, and you can do it over and over again. But I'm sad that it took me so long to realize how important scrolling is. My closest friend, who's a retired university professor, his wife is a doctor, and she's a scroller. So many people love scrolling. And I did ChatGPT and Google searches on why people love scrolling. And they love scrolling, according to ChatGPT, for 3 reasons. First of all, it seems to lift their mood. It makes them more cheerful. It lifts them. Secondly, it fires their imagination. It fires their creativity. They think of new things that they hadn't thought about. And thirdly, it's addictive. Yes, so scrolling is very popular because it makes you feel better. You think of interesting new things, and it's addictive. Well, that's what ChatGPT says, but I think that a lot of people scroll because they are looking for solutions to problems. And when I was a medical student, the medical textbook had 1,200 pages, and the surgery book had 1,000 pages, and the pathology book had, I don't know, 1,000 or 1,200. So much detail that you only read the book once or twice, and you missed a lot, and by the time you got to the end, you forgot the beginning. So scrolling has the advantage that you can go very fast through lots and lots. and you might discover a solution that you wouldn't discover in a big book. For instance, my family's biggest mental health problems arose from transgenerational trauma, from a great-grandmother who had 9 children by 3 different fathers and died of cancer when she was 42. And I didn't find out about transgenerational trauma until I was in my 80s, because there's so much detail. But so what I decided was that what we need is Scroll Plus, and now I've got 92 mental health and addiction items. They're wants, needs and solutions. 92 items that you can scroll in about 5 minutes. And every time you come to one that's of interest to you, you can immediately tap on it and watch a 6 to 16 second video. So you get the advantage of scrolling, you race through everything quite quickly, but you then get the detail that you need, but only about the things that you decide that you need. Most people out of 92 items might find they had 5 or 8 or 10 or 11 that were of interest. So whenever they come across one, they just immediately tap on it and they can watch a 6 to 16 second video on it, which gives them some basic information. And then if they like that information, that very short video has got a link to a 1 minute video which gives them more information. And then if they find that this whole process is helping them, they can do the Mental Fix It app, and the Mental Fix It app tells them which 6 of our 83 videos will help their mixture of problems and solutions most. So there we are. And today we've been putting up the audio version of Mental Fix It Scroll Plus. The ebook version is already up on Amazon about a week ago. Mental Fix It Scroll Plus ebook at Amazon. The audio book should be up in another few days, and then the actual Scroll Plus will be at smilefixit.com. You can just go to the website smilefixit.com and it'll be free. You can do the Smile Fix It, you can do the Scroll Plus in just a few minutes, and you'll know what your problems are, you'll have basic information about them, and you'll have sources for full information. Well, I've got to, the battery's going flat on my recording machine, so I have to stop now. But today is Wednesday. If you've got any comments, questions or criticisms, please send them to me via the platform that you watch. This live streaming is done on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram and Facebook, or you can email me. I always respond to emails. The email is healthestuff@gmail.com, and you can find that email address at my website smilefixit.com. Thank you for watching. I'll be back again on Friday at 7 p.m. Perth time, Saturday 7 p.m. Perth time, and Sunday 9 a.m. Perth time.